Ballroom was already crowded when Bruce Lee walked through the hotel doors. It was one of those grand American hotels where everything seemed designed to make ordinary people feel small. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling so high they almost disappeared into the darkness. Marble columns rose along the walls. Waiters moved silently between tables carrying silver trays, while businessmen, celebrities, athletes, and wealthy guests stood in small circles, talking beneath the warm, golden lights. Bruce Lee noticed all of it, but he wasn't impressed. He had learned long ago that expensive rooms did not make people powerful. People did. And that night, one of the most powerful men in the room was already watching him. Muhammad Ali stood near the far side of the ballroom, surrounded by several guests. Ali was laughing. He looked relaxed, confident. But beside him stood a man who looked completely different. The bodyguard was enormous. He weighed nearly 320 pounds. His shoulders were wider than most men's chests. His arms were thick, his neck was massive, and his hands looked almost too large for a normal person's body. He wore a dark suit, but even underneath the jacket, the shape of his muscles was obvious. The man's name wasn't important to the guests. They simply called him Ali's bodyguard. And he had a reputation. He had protected Ali from aggressive fans, drunk spectators, and people looking for trouble. Nobody in the ballroom wanted to test him. Nobody except Bruce Lee. Although Bruce had no intention of fighting anyone that evening, he had come to attend the event, meet a few people, and leave quietly. But the moment he entered, something changed. The giant bodyguard looked at him. He stared for several seconds. Bruce noticed. Their eyes met. The bodyguard didn't smile. Bruce didn't either. Then Bruce simply looked away. That seemed to bother the man. A few minutes later, Bruce was speaking with one of the guests when he heard a deep voice behind him. "You're Bruce Lee." Bruce turned. The bodyguard was standing only a few feet away. "That's right." The giant looked him up and down. Then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a challenging one. "I expected someone bigger." Several people nearby heard him. A few laughed. Bruce simply smiled. "You expected someone else?" The bodyguard laughed louder. Ali noticed the exchange from across the room. He stopped talking. For a moment, he watched Bruce carefully. Ali knew something about fighters. He knew what insecurity looked like. He knew what arrogance looked like. And he knew what confidence looked like. Bruce didn't look nervous. That caught Ali's attention. The bodyguard stepped closer. "People say you're a fighter." Bruce nodded. "People say many things." "Are they wrong?" Bruce looked directly into his eyes. "Sometimes." The giant chuckled. "You're funny." "I try to be." The surrounding guests laughed. The bodyguard didn't. His smile disappeared. He leaned closer. "Don't make jokes with me." Bruce's expression remained calm. "I wasn't." For several seconds, neither man moved. Then Ali finally called from across the room. "Hey!" The bodyguard looked back. Ali raised a hand. "Leave the man alone." The bodyguard stepped away. Bruce turned back toward the guests. The moment appeared to be over. But it wasn't. Not even close. Because the bodyguard had just made a decision. He wanted to know whether Bruce Lee was really as dangerous as people claimed. And before the night was over, he intended to find out. Nearly an hour passed. The ballroom became louder. Music played softly in the background. People talked. Glasses clinked. Bruce stood near one of the marble columns, speaking with a small group. Across the room, Ali was still watching. He wasn't staring anymore. He was studying. There was something unusual about Bruce. The smaller man never seemed to waste movement. When someone spoke to him, He listened completely. When he turned smoothly. When he reached for his glass, there was no unnecessary motion. Ali had spent his entire life around athletes. He recognized discipline. And Bruce had it. Then suddenly, the bodyguard appeared again. This time, he wasn't smiling. Bruce looked at him. "What is it?" "I want to see something." Bruce raised an eyebrow. "See what?" "What you can do." The conversation around them slowly disappeared. People began turning. The bodyguard removed his jacket. A few guests stepped backward. Bruce looked at him, then at the surrounding crowd. "You want to fight?" The bodyguard nodded. "Just for a second." Bruce shook his head. "No." The bodyguard's face hardened. "Scared?" Bruce smiled. "No." "Then why not?" "Because this isn't a fighting arena." The bodyguard looked around the elegant ballroom. Then he pointed toward the open marble floor. "There's plenty of room." Bruce remained still. The giant took another step. "You've been talking all night." Bruce's eyes narrowed slightly. "I haven't said much." "Enough!" The bodyguard suddenly grabbed Bruce's wrist. The room went silent. Bruce looked down at the hand, then back at the man's face. "Let go." The bodyguard tightened his grip. Bruce didn't pull. He didn't panic. He simply waited. Ali's smile disappeared. Something in Bruce's posture had changed. It was subtle, almost invisible. But Ali noticed. The bodyguard didn't. "What's wrong?" the giant asked. Bruce quietly answered, "Nothing." Then the bodyguard tried to pull him forward. And that was the moment everything changed. Bruce moved, not backward, not forward, sideways. His body turned with the motion. His wrist rotated. His feet shifted. For less than a second, the bodyguard lost the position of Bruce's arm. Bruce immediately stepped outside the man's balance. The giant stumbled. A wave of shock moved through the room. Bruce released him. The bodyguard looked at his own hand. He couldn't believe what had happened. Bruce hadn't fought him. He had simply disappeared from the grip. The bodyguard's face turned red. Ali leaned forward. Now he was interested. Very interested. The bodyguard slowly raised his eyes. "You think that was enough?" Bruce said nothing. The giant dropped into a fighting stance. Bruce finally understood. This wasn't going to end with one warning. The ballroom suddenly felt much smaller, and hundreds of pounds of muscle were preparing to come straight at him. Before we continue, let me ask you something. If you were standing in that ballroom and saw a 320-pound bodyguard preparing to fight Bruce Lee, who would you bet on? Bruce Lee or the giant bodyguard? Write your answer in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. City and country if you want. If you're enjoying this story, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us. Because what happened next was the moment Muhammad Ali stopped watching the room and started watching Bruce Lee. The bodyguard moved first. His size made the first step look slow. But it wasn't. For a man that large, he was surprisingly fast. He crossed the distance in an instant and swung a heavy punch toward Bruce's head. Bruce slipped to the side. The punch cut through empty air. The bodyguard immediately followed with another. Bruce moved again. The second punch missed. The third came faster. Bruce stepped backward. The giant followed. One step. 2. 3. Bruce's back approached the marble column. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "He's trapped." Bruce heard it. So did Ali. The bodyguard smiled. "Nowhere to run." Bruce looked at him calmly. "I wasn't running." The giant charged. Bruce waited. The punch came. At the last possible moment, Bruce shifted his head just inches away. The fist passed beside his face. Bruce's left hand touched the bodyguard's forearm. His right hand controlled the man's wrist. Then Bruce pivoted. The bodyguard's momentum carried him forward. His own weight became his enemy. Bruce stepped aside. The giant stumbled. But this time, he recovered. He turned. Bruce was already waiting. The bodyguard attacked again. Bruce ducked. The giant swung again. Bruce slipped. Another strike. Another miss. The ballroom was completely silent now. Nobody was laughing. Nobody was talking. They were watching something they couldn't understand. The giant had every physical advantage. He was bigger, heavier, stronger. But Bruce seemed to be moving before the attacks even happened. Ali slowly smiled. He understood. Bruce wasn't trying to overpower the man. He was making the man chase him. And every time the giant chased him, he became more frustrated. The bodyguard finally roared, "Stand still!" Bruce answered, "Why?" The crowd laughed nervously. The giant charged again. This time, Bruce didn't retreat. He stepped toward him. The bodyguard's eyes widened. Bruce's hand struck the man's chest, not with maximum force, but with perfect timing. The giant's upper body shifted backward. Bruce immediately moved to the side. He caught the arm, turned his hips, and redirected the enormous man's momentum. The bodyguard dropped to one knee. The entire ballroom gasped. For a moment, nobody moved. The giant looked down. One knee on the marble floor. Bruce stood beside him, calm, breathing normally. The bodyguard's face showed something nobody had seen before. Confusion. He had expected Bruce Lee to fight like a smaller man, desperately trying to survive. Instead, Bruce had fought like someone who understood exactly how much force was necessary. And nothing more. The bodyguard slowly stood. His pride was wounded. His anger was rising. Bruce took one step backward. "That's enough." The giant shook his head. "No!" Bruce stared at him. "Think carefully." The bodyguard clenched his fists. Across the room, Muhammad Ali finally stood up. The room became silent again. Ali looked at his bodyguard, then at Bruce. And in a calm voice, he said, "Don't rush him." The bodyguard looked toward Ali. Bruce looked toward Ali too. For the first time that evening, Ali and Bruce made direct eye contact. Neither man smiled. Ali's expression said one thing clearly. He had seen enough to know that this was no ordinary confrontation. But the bodyguard still wasn't finished. He turned back toward Bruce. And this time, there was no arrogance in his face. Only determination. Bruce slowly raised his hands. The crowd stepped farther away. The music had stopped. The ballroom was completely silent. And Muhammad Ali watched from only a few feet away. The next exchange would decide everything. The ballroom had gone completely silent. Not the comfortable silence that comes when people are waiting for a speech. This was different. It was the silence of hundreds of people watching two men who had reached the point where words no longer mattered. Bruce Lee stood barefoot on the polished marble floor, his black clothing slightly loosened from the movement of the fight. Across from him stood the 320-pound bodyguard. The giant rolled his shoulders. He was breathing harder now. His face was flushed. His pride had taken a serious hit. But he wasn't injured, and that was important. Because Bruce knew the next few seconds could become much more dangerous. The first exchanges had been controlled. The bodyguard had attacked with anger. Bruce had answered with timing, but anger was now being replaced by concentration. The giant had finally stopped underestimating him, and that made him far more dangerous. Muhammad Ali stood several feet away. His arms were folded. His eyes never left Bruce. The bodyguard looked toward Ali. "You want me to stop?" Ali shook his head. "No." The bodyguard looked surprised. Ali smiled slightly. "I want to see what happens when you stop chasing him." The bodyguard understood. He turned back toward Bruce. This time, he didn't rush. Bruce noticed immediately. The giant lowered his center of gravity. His feet became quieter. His hands came up. He wasn't going to throw wild punches anymore. He was going to wait. Bruce smiled. That was exactly what he wanted. Two fighters stood several feet apart. One weighed more than twice as much as the other. One had overwhelming physical power. The other had extraordinary speed and precision, and neither wanted to make the first mistake. The crowd waited. 5 seconds passed. 10. 15. Nobody moved. Then Bruce took one small step forward. The bodyguard didn't react. Bruce took another. Still nothing. Bruce suddenly shifted his weight. The bodyguard moved. Bruce immediately stopped. A few people in the crowd gasped. Ali smiled. He had seen it. Bruce was testing the man's reactions. He wasn't looking at the man's fists. He was watching his shoulders, his hips, his feet, his breathing, everything. The bodyguard finally understood what Bruce was doing. "You think you're smarter than me?" Bruce answered quietly. "No." "Then what are you doing?" "Learning." The answer irritated him. The giant stepped forward. Bruce stepped backward. The giant followed. Bruce moved left. The giant moved left. Bruce moved right. The giant followed again. Then Bruce suddenly stopped. The bodyguard stopped too. The two men stared at each other. The giant realized something. Bruce wasn't trying to escape. He was controlling the distance. The bodyguard had become the one reacting, and that realization made him angry again. He charged. This time, Bruce didn't move away. He stepped directly inside the attack. The giant's right arm came forward. Bruce's left hand redirected it. His right hand touched the man's shoulder. Bruce pivoted. The bodyguard's momentum carried him past. Bruce turned with him. A second movement followed. The bodyguard's balance disappeared. For a fraction of a second, his enormous body became weightless. Then he dropped hard onto one knee. The marble floor echoed beneath him. The crowd gasped again. But Bruce immediately stepped away. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't taunting the man. He simply waited. The bodyguard looked up, and this time something had changed in his eyes. He was no longer angry. He was thinking. If you're still watching, I want you to imagine this scene for a second. You're standing in that ballroom. You see a 320-pound man charging at Bruce Lee. You know Bruce is dramatically smaller. You know the bodyguard is stronger. But Bruce keeps making him lose his balance. Would you still bet on the bigger man? Comment Bruce if you think Bruce Lee would win. Comment giant if you think the bodyguard's size and strength would eventually overwhelm him. And tell us where you're watching from. Are you watching from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, India, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, or somewhere else? Write your city and country in the comments. And if you want more cinematic Bruce Lee stories like this, hit like and subscribe. Because Muhammad Ali was about to say something that nobody in that room expected. The bodyguard slowly stood. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Then he looked at Bruce. "You're fast," Bruce nodded. "Thank you." The giant almost laughed. "You think this is funny?" "No." "Then why are you smiling?" Bruce's expression became serious. "Because you're finally fighting." The bodyguard froze. Ali laughed from behind them. It was the first time he had laughed during the confrontation. The bodyguard looked toward Ali. Ali shook his head. "He's got you thinking." The bodyguard looked back at Bruce. "You're trying to get inside my head." Bruce answered, "I don't need to." That sentence hit harder than any strike. The crowd reacted with nervous laughter. The bodyguard's jaw tightened, but this time he didn't attack. Instead, he slowly walked around Bruce. Bruce turned with him. The two men circled. The bodyguard suddenly stepped in. Bruce moved. The giant stopped. Again. Bruce had read him. The bodyguard tried another angle. Bruce shifted. Again. Another attempt. Again. The giant couldn't understand it. It felt as though Bruce could see the attack before it happened. But there was no magic. There was no secret trick. Bruce was simply reading movement. Years of training had taught him to recognize the smallest changes in a person's body. A shoulder moving slightly, a foot turning, a hip shifting, a breath changing. Those tiny signals came before the attack. And Bruce reacted to the signal, not the punch. The bodyguard finally understood. He wasn't fighting Bruce's hands. He was fighting Bruce's ability to anticipate. And that was much harder. Then the giant changed his strategy. He stopped trying to punch Bruce. Instead, he rushed forward and attempted to grab him. Bruce's eyes widened. This was different. The bodyguard's enormous arms opened. Bruce moved sideways. The giant reached for him. Bruce slipped away, but the bodyguard turned faster than expected. His arm caught Bruce's shoulder. For the first time, Bruce was actually grabbed. The crowd reacted immediately. The bodyguard tightened his grip. Bruce's body was pulled against the man's chest. The giant smiled. "Got you." Bruce didn't struggle. Ali's smile disappeared. The atmosphere changed instantly. The bodyguard began squeezing. Bruce's shoulders were trapped. His movement was limited. The giant leaned closer. "You can't move now." Bruce looked up. "Are you sure?" The bodyguard tightened his grip. Bruce's feet moved, only slightly. The giant didn't notice. Bruce shifted one foot behind the man's leg, then the other. His hands moved between their bodies. He wasn't trying to break free with strength. He was creating space. 1 inch, then another. The bodyguard tightened his arms again. Bruce suddenly turned his hips. The giant's balance shifted. Bruce dropped his weight. The bodyguard tried to hold him, but now his own upper body was leaning forward. Bruce stepped sideways. The giant stumbled. Bruce continued the rotation. The bodyguard's leg crossed awkwardly over the other, and suddenly, the 320-pound man was falling. Bruce released him before he hit the floor. The bodyguard dropped onto both knees. A collective gasp filled the ballroom. This time, nobody laughed. Nobody spoke. Even the people who had doubted Bruce were staring at him with disbelief. Bruce stepped backward. The bodyguard looked down at the floor. His chest was rising and falling rapidly. For several seconds, he didn't move. Then he slowly looked up. His eyes met Bruce's, and something unexpected happened. He started laughing, not because Bruce had embarrassed him, because he finally understood. "You've been holding back." Bruce didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "I didn't come here to hurt you." The giant stared at him. "Then why did you fight?" Bruce looked toward Ali. "Because he wouldn't stop." Ali nodded slowly. The bodyguard followed Bruce's gaze. For the first time that evening, the giant looked toward Muhammad Ali without anger. Ali walked forward. The crowd instinctively opened a path. Ali approached Bruce first. The two men stood face to face. Ali looked Bruce up and down. Then he smiled. "You know something?" Bruce raised an eyebrow. "What?" Ali pointed toward the bodyguard. "That man doesn't like losing." Bruce glanced at the giant. "I noticed." Ali laughed. Then his expression became serious. But I've never seen him lose his balance that many times. Bruce smiled. He has good balance. Ali looked surprised. Good balance? Bruce nodded. Very good. Then how did you keep putting him down? Bruce looked at the floor. His size. Ali stared at him. Bruce continued. The bigger the movement, the more information it gives you. Ali nodded slowly. He understood. That was something he had learned in boxing, too. A fighter's strength could become a weakness if the fighter didn't know how to control it. Ali looked toward his bodyguard. Come here. The giant stood. He approached. Ali asked, What did you learn? The bodyguard looked at Bruce. Then he said, He's not trying to beat me. Ali smiled. Then, what is he doing? The bodyguard thought for a moment. He's making me beat myself. Bruce looked at him. For the first time that night, he smiled genuinely. Exactly. The ballroom erupted into quiet conversation. Everyone was talking now. But the story wasn't over. Because the bodyguard still had one question. He looked at Bruce. One more. Bruce's expression changed. Ali noticed immediately. The bodyguard continued. One clean exchange. Bruce didn't answer. Ali looked between them. Then he said, That's enough. The bodyguard shook his head. No. Ali's face became serious. You've already learned the lesson. The bodyguard looked at Bruce. I want to know. Bruce stood silently. Then he slowly raised his hands again. The crowd fell silent for the third time. Ali stepped backward. The bodyguard lowered his stance. Bruce adjusted his feet. The distance between them was only a few steps. This time, there would be no anger, no insults, no humiliation, just one final exchange. The bodyguard moved first. He didn't throw a punch. He stepped forward. Bruce stepped in too. Their movements became almost impossible for the crowd to follow. The bodyguard reached. Bruce redirected. The giant turned. Bruce shifted. A hand moved. A foot moved. A shoulder turned. Then, suddenly, Bruce stopped. His fingers were inches away from the bodyguard's throat. The giant froze. Bruce could have struck. He didn't. He simply lowered his hand. The bodyguard stared at him. The room was silent. Then Ali said quietly, That's the difference. Everyone looked at him. Ali pointed toward Bruce. He had the chance. Then he pointed toward his bodyguard. And he didn't take it. Bruce lowered his hands. The bodyguard slowly nodded. For the first time that night, he didn't look embarrassed. He looked respectful. But there was still one final question hanging in the air. Why had Muhammad Ali allowed the confrontation to happen in the first place? And what did Ali really want to know about Bruce Lee? The answer would come when the two men finally spoke alone. And that conversation would reveal that the fight in the ballroom had never been just about a bodyguard. It had been about something much bigger. The ballroom slowly began to breathe again. People started whispering. Some guests were still staring at the marble floor where the 320-pound bodyguard had been brought down moments earlier. Others were looking at Bruce Lee. But Bruce seemed almost unaffected by what had happened. He adjusted his clothing, took a slow breath, and looked toward Muhammad Ali. Ali was smiling. Not the playful smile people knew from his public appearances. This was different. It was the smile of a man who had just witnessed something he genuinely respected. Ali walked toward Bruce. The crowd naturally moved aside. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Then Ali said quietly, "You're dangerous." Bruce smiled. "Only when necessary." Ali laughed. "I like that answer." Behind them, the giant bodyguard stood silently. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone. He wasn't embarrassed. He was thinking. He had just experienced something that challenged everything he believed about fighting. He had entered the confrontation believing that size created certainty. Now he understood that size could create openings. Ali looked at his bodyguard. "Give us a minute." The bodyguard nodded. He stepped away. Bruce and Ali walked toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. The music had started again, but the guests were still watching them. Ali leaned against one of the marble columns. "I've heard stories about you." Bruce folded his arms. "Good stories." Ali smiled. "Crazy stories." Bruce laughed softly. "Most stories become crazy when people repeat them." Ali nodded. "That's true." Then his expression became serious. "I wanted to see something tonight." Bruce looked at him. "What?" "Whether you were fast," Ali paused, "or whether you actually understood fighting." Bruce didn't respond. Ali continued. "A lot of fast people think they're fighters." Bruce nodded. "Speed isn't enough." "Exactly." Ali looked toward the bodyguard. "That man is stronger than almost anyone in this building." Bruce glanced over. "I know. He can hit hard." "I know. He can take punishment." Bruce smiled. "I noticed." Ali laughed. Then he became serious again. "But he couldn't touch you." Bruce looked at the floor. "He came close." Ali shook his head. "Close doesn't count." Bruce smiled. For several seconds, they stood silently. Then Ali asked, "How did you know?" Bruce looked at him. "Know what?" "When he was going to move." Bruce thought for a moment. "You watch the whole body." Ali nodded. "Not just the hands." "The hands lie," Bruce said. Ali's eyebrows rose. Bruce continued. "The shoulders don't. The hips don't. The feet don't." Ali smiled. "That's boxing." Bruce nodded. "That's fighting." Ali laughed. Now the two men were speaking like athletes instead of celebrities. They understood each other. Different sports, different backgrounds, different methods, but the same language: movement, distance, timing, pressure, and control. If you're still with us, here's another question for you. After everything you've seen so far, what do you think mattered most in Bruce Lee's victory? Was it his speed, his technique, his timing, or his ability to stay calm under pressure? Write your answer in the comments. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. Write your city and country. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and subscribe. Because the conversation between Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali was about to become much more interesting. And there was one thing Ali wanted to test personally. Ali pushed himself away from the column. "You know what I want to do?" Bruce looked at him. "What?" "Move." Bruce smiled. "Move. Not fight." Ali raised his hands. "Just move." Bruce understood immediately. Ali wasn't asking for a real fight. He wanted to see how Bruce reacted to the movements of a world-class boxer. Bruce nodded. "Okay." They stepped into the open space. The crowd noticed. Whispers spread across the ballroom. Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee were facing each other. The bodyguard watched from the side. He was no longer trying to prove anything. Now he wanted to learn. Ali raised his fists. Bruce raised his hands. The two men began moving. Ali bounced lightly on his feet. Bruce watched. Ali moved left. Bruce moved left. Ali moved right. Bruce followed. Then Ali suddenly stepped forward. Bruce shifted backward. Ali smiled. "You're watching my feet." Bruce smiled back. "Your feet are telling me where you're going." Ali shook his head. "Maybe." Then Ali changed rhythm. Slow, fast, slow, fast. Bruce adjusted. The ballroom became fascinated. There were no punches, no violence, just movement. But somehow, it was more intense than the earlier fight. Ali suddenly stepped forward with a quick feint. Bruce reacted. Ali stopped. Bruce smiled. Ali laughed. Got you? Bruce shook his head. No. Ali looked surprised. Bruce continued. You wanted me to react. Ali's smile disappeared. Then he laughed. That's true. The bodyguard watching them shook his head. He finally understood something. Bruce and Ali were not trying to prove who was better. They were studying each other. Two different fighters. Two different philosophies. One conversation without words. Ali suddenly lowered his hands. You're very difficult to read. Bruce replied, So are you. Ali laughed. I've been trying to be unreadable for years. Bruce nodded. It works. Then Ali became serious. You know what I learned tonight? Bruce waited. Strength makes people impatient. Bruce looked toward the bodyguard. Ali nodded. Exactly. The giant bodyguard stood quietly nearby. He heard every word. Ali continued. When you know you're stronger, you expect the other person to break first. Bruce nodded. But when they don't, they get angry. Bruce finished the sentence. Ali smiled. Exactly. The two men stood quietly. Then the bodyguard approached. I owe you an apology. Bruce looked at him. The giant continued. I thought you were just a small movie star. Bruce smiled. A lot of people do. I was wrong. Bruce extended his hand. The bodyguard looked at it, then shook it. The contrast was remarkable. A 320-pound giant shaking hands with a much smaller martial artist. The same man who had tried to intimidate Bruce earlier now looked at him with genuine respect. Ali watched. Then he laughed. Well, that's one way to end the evening. Everyone nearby laughed. The tension finally disappeared. But Bruce wasn't ready to leave yet. Something was bothering him. He looked at Ali. You knew he was going to challenge me. Ali nodded. I suspected. Why? Ali smiled. Because he doesn't believe people until he sees them. Bruce looked toward the bodyguard. And you let him? Ali's expression became thoughtful. I wanted him to learn. Bruce nodded slowly. Then he did. Ali smiled. Yes. But just as the room began returning to normal, a waiter rushed toward Ali. He whispered something into his ear. Ali's expression immediately changed. Bruce noticed. What happened? Ali looked toward the hotel entrance. Someone is causing trouble outside. Bruce raised an eyebrow. Security? Ali nodded. Then he looked toward his bodyguard. Go check. The giant started walking. Bruce watched him leave. A few seconds later, another sound came from the hallway. People shouting. Footsteps. A door slammed. The ballroom became tense again. Ali looked at Bruce. You should probably stay here. Bruce smiled. Probably. But neither man believed that was going to happen. The bodyguard disappeared through the doorway. 5 seconds. 10. Then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the hallway. Everyone froze. Ali's expression hardened. Bruce looked toward the door. The bodyguard was gone. Then, another crash. Ali stepped forward. Bruce followed. They reached the hallway. And what they saw made everyone stop. The giant bodyguard was standing against the wall. 3 men were approaching him. They weren't guests. They had entered the hotel looking for trouble. The largest of the 3 pointed toward Ali. Nobody gets past us. Ali looked at Bruce. Bruce didn't move. The bodyguard stepped forward. His hands came up. But this time, Bruce noticed something. The bodyguard was exhausted. His breathing was heavy from the earlier confrontation. And now, he had 3 opponents. Bruce stepped forward. The bodyguard looked back. "No." Bruce raised an eyebrow. "I've got this." Bruce smiled. "You already fought enough tonight." The bodyguard shook his head. "This is my job." Bruce looked at Ali. Ali smiled. "Let him." Bruce stepped back. The bodyguard faced the 3 men. The hallway became another battlefield. But this time, Bruce wasn't the target. He was watching, studying, waiting. And what happened next would show whether the giant had actually learned the lesson Bruce had taught him. Because this time, the bodyguard wasn't going to rely on brute strength. He was going to use timing. The hallway suddenly became silent. Muhammad Ali stood behind Bruce Lee, watching. 3 men had blocked the corridor, and between them stood the 320-pound bodyguard. Only minutes earlier, he had been fighting Bruce. Now he was facing 3 attackers while already exhausted. The largest man stepped forward. "You should have stayed out of this." The bodyguard didn't answer. He simply watched their feet. Bruce noticed immediately. The giant had changed. Earlier, he had chased Bruce with anger. Now he was calm. One attacker rushed forward. The bodyguard stepped aside. The man missed. Instead of trying to overpower him, the bodyguard redirected his momentum and sent him stumbling into the wall. The second man attacked immediately. The bodyguard blocked, stepped back, and waited. The attacker swung again. The bodyguard moved just enough to make him miss. Bruce smiled. He understood. The lesson had finally reached him. The giant wasn't fighting strength with strength anymore. He was using timing. The third attacker charged. The bodyguard shifted his weight and let the man pass. Within seconds, all 3 attackers were on the floor or struggling to regain their balance. The hallway became quiet again. The bodyguard stood there, breathing heavily. Then he looked toward Bruce. Bruce nodded. "You learned." The giant smiled. "From the best." Muhammad Ali laughed. "Now, that's what I wanted to hear." Before we finish, one final question for you. If you had been in that hotel, would you have believed Bruce Lee could defeat a 320-pound fighter? Comment yes or no below. And tell us where you're watching from, your city and country. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves Bruce Lee and martial arts stories. A few minutes later, the ballroom had returned to normal. But something had changed. The bodyguard no longer stood beside Ali as a protector who believed nobody could challenge him. He stood there as a student. Bruce prepared to leave. Ali walked with him toward the hotel entrance. "You know," Ali said, "most people would have tried to prove they were stronger." Bruce smiled. "I wasn't stronger." Ali laughed. "That's exactly why you won." Bruce stopped near the doors. Ali extended his hand. Bruce shook it. For a moment, neither man said anything. Then Ali smiled. "Maybe one day we should train together." Bruce smiled back. "Maybe." Bruce walked out into the night. The doors closed behind him. Inside the hotel, Ali turned toward his bodyguard. The giant was still staring at the entrance. Ali asked, "What are you thinking?" The bodyguard smiled. "That size isn't everything." Ali laughed. "No, it never was." And somewhere outside, Bruce Lee disappeared into the night. He hadn't needed to prove that he was the strongest man in the room. He had proved something far more important. A fighter doesn't win because he is bigger. He wins because he understands what the other fighter doesn't. And that night, in front of Muhammad Ali and a room full of witnesses, Bruce Lee had shown exactly what that meant. The legend walked away without celebration. The giant walked away with respect. And Muhammad Ali walked away, knowing that the quiet martial artist everyone had underestimated was far more dangerous than anyone in that ballroom had imagined. Because Bruce Lee's greatest weapon was never his size. It was his ability to remain calm when everyone else lost control.